Gwythian Prins is a professor, former advisor to NATO, and was a member of the Chief of Defence Staff Strategy Advisory Panel. This expansion, is this unheralded? And what will it take within NATO to make this actually a commitment that will have some teeth? Good morning to you, Professor.
Yeah, good morning. And yes, it is. The hinges of history are really turning as we are speaking. And Mark is quite right. Although Patrick Sander, just to pick up on the point that you were discussing, it's not 1937, actually, if we're going to be accurate. It's 1935, because a long-forgotten admiral, Admiral Ernle Chatfield, who was the chairman of the Military Committee of the Committee of Imperial Defence in 1935, threatened to resign if he wasn't allowed to have a report on military requirement without Treasury control. That was the crucial thing. If he hadn't done that, we wouldn't have had all those systems Mark talked about. Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge, actually, for Patrick Sander and his colleagues now. And by the way, Mark's absolutely right that the Ukraine war is as much about deterring China as it is about finishing the business with Putin. So yes, there's a huge amount at stake now. This really is a moment. There are three moments in the history of NATO: the foundation, the moment of the expansion at the end of the Cold War, when I was having a small role in NATO headquarters, and now with the arrival of the Swedes and the Finns, which will be a geopolitical realignment of the whole of the northern flank.
Of course, you talk about the arrival of the Swedes and the Finns. You'll be aware objections by Turkey are causing a bit of a roadblock there, Professor.
Yep, there are. Of course there are. But I have little doubt that the Swedes and the Finns will be becoming members. I know exactly the game that Mr. Erdogan is playing. And, of course, he's, as you will know too, Nick, he's always been something of a troublesome member. But he's a crucial member because, you know, he is geostrategic on the southern end in exactly the same way as the Swedes and the Finns will be at the northern end. And don't underestimate the scale of what this means. The Finns have an army that is currently 3 times as big as our army. They have an artillery inventory, which is the largest in Western Europe. So this is one of the reasons why Mr. Putin is so livid. And, of course, the irony of this is that Putin has done all this to himself. And every time that he bombards Kyiv or that he commits another war crime, and I agree that prima facie the attack that you were just reporting on the shopping centre sounds in that category, what he does is he produces the exact opposite of what he himself intends.
When I asked Mark Allman which way he thought the war was going, rather gloomily, he felt it was going more towards the Russians at this time. Professor, would you concur?
Actually not. I'll say why. I think that the Russians are at the moment of what the military call maximum effort. They have about 85% of their fighting capacity committed. And with all of that, they are managing very, very slowly and very bloodily to crawl forward a little bit in the Donbass, but they haven't succeeded in controlling it. And there's material evidence to support what I say. 2 days ago, Putin sacked General Dvornikov, who is cheerfully nicknamed as the butcher of Aleppo, and he was replaced extraordinarily with a 20-stone general called Pavel, whose record was failure in Afghanistan a generation ago. And the reason that that's happening is that so many senior Russian generals, probably 11, have been killed in action, as well as somewhere between 30 and 50 colonels. So he's running out of good personnel, and he's also running out of good equipment. There are credible reports that the most important military consequence of our embargoes on Russia have been stopping them getting access to microchips, so that the Russians have been allegedly taking microchips out of domestic machinery, you know, like washing up machines and tumble dryers, and putting them into weapons. So, and they are getting weaker in that sense. And if, now here's the big conditional, if we walk the walk that we are now talking, and we actually make a major surge in providing the long-range weapons in volume and continue the training, which the British Army has been in the lead in doing, then the Ukrainians have the chance, going back to your original question, Nick, they have the chance to finish this war and to win it, which I believe, quite straightforwardly on strategic grounds, is the most humane way to save life.
Good speaking with you, Professor. I sense we will speak again. Thank you. Gwythian Prins is Professor and former advisor to NATO.